The year was 372, and humanity had long since scattered itself across three major galaxies, the Milky Way, Andromeda, and Triangulum. The Galactic Alliance maintained order throughout most colonized systems, though as with any vast territory, there were always shadows where lawlessness thrived. Alia Mercer stood at the viewport of Arcturon Repair Station, watching as her pride and joy, the Starhawk, underwent its final calibrations. The quantum drive Starship represented 5 years of her life, countless sleepless nights, and 3 near-death experiences during testing. It was the first human-engineered vessel with self-regenerative capabilities, a technological marvel that had earned her both acclaim and envy throughout the known universe. "Diagnostic complete. Chief Engineer Mercer," called out Daxin, her outdated companion robot. His metallic frame had seen better days, with mismatched parts and visible repair welds, but his loyalty algorithms remained impeccable. "The quantum core is stabilized at 97% efficiency, 3% below optimal, but within acceptable parameters." Alia nodded, brushing a strand of copper hair from her face. "We'll have to accept it for now. Border stations never have the right equipment." She traced the scar along her right forearm, a reminder of the day the quantum core had first activated, burning through her protective gear but somehow leaving her alive. "Perhaps we should have waited until returning to Central," Daxin suggested, his voice modulator producing something close to concern. "No time. The Triangulum expedition leaves in 3 days. We need to be ready." Alia's attention shifted as she noticed a figure moving too purposefully near her ship. Tall, with the distinctive metallic sheen of cybernetic enhancements covering half his face and most of his visible limbs. "Daxin, who authorized that technician?" The robot's optical sensors rotated. "No authorization logged in station records." Alia was already moving, hand reaching for the neural stunner at her hip. "Security override. Mercer Alpha 7 Tango. Lock down Starhawk." Too late. The ship's external lights flashed as its engines hummed to life. The cybernetic figure had already breached the airlock. "Unauthorized departure in progress," announced the station's automated system. "Security protocols engaged." But the Starhawk was already breaking free from its moorings, the advanced quantum drive generating its distinctive blue-green field as it prepared to jump. "Station control, this is Chief Engineer Alia Mercer." "That's my ship. Lock it down now," she shouted into her communicator. "We're trying, Engineer Mercer," came the harried response. "But it's overriding our system somehow." Alia watched in horror as her creation, her legacy, vanished into the quantum stream, leaving nothing but dissipating energy patterns. "Identity confirmed on perpetrator," said a security officer who had finally arrived, scanning the departure records. "Rovan Kryn, former Zentari military, now a known space pirate, half man, half machine, specialized in tech theft." Alia's fingers curled into fists, her knuckles whitening. "I want every available resource tracking that ship." The security officer looked uncomfortable. "We'll file a report with the Galactic Alliance, but frankly, once a quantum-capable ship jumps, tracking becomes nearly impossible unless you have a quantum neural link with the ship itself," Alia finished, touching the small implant behind her ear. "Which I do." 3 hours later, Alia stood before Commodore Voss, the Alliance representative at Arcturon Station. His office was spartanly decorated, with only his military achievements adorning the walls. "Absolutely not," Voss stated flatly, his gray-streaked hair and rigid posture betraying his military background. "The Alliance will handle this matter through proper channels. With all due respect, Commodore, your proper channels will be drafting reports while Rovan Kryn sells my technology to the highest bidder." Alia leaned forward. "The Starhawk isn't just any ship. It's quantum technology that could destabilize the balance of power if it falls into the wrong hands." Which is precisely why we can't have a civilian chasing after a known criminal across 3 galaxies. Voss countered. Kryn is dangerous. He's got Centauri military augmentations and a kill count that would make a warship blush. I'm not asking for permission. Voss's expression hardened. You're asking for a death certificate. Engineer Mercer. Pursuing Rovan Kryn is suicide. Alia straightened, her green eyes flashing with determination. Then prepare my obituary, Commodore, because I'm going after my ship. She left his office without waiting for a dismissal, already planning her next move. This is most inadvisable, Daxon commented as they made their way through the station's corridors toward the docking bay. The Commodore's assessment of our survival probability is statistically sound. Statistics don't account for determination. Daxon. Alia entered the code for Docking Bay 17, where she knew an old Meridian-class transport was being held for scrap. It wasn't much. An outdated engine, minimal weaponry, and life support systems that wheezed rather than hummed, but it would have to do. I calculate our chances of recovering the Starhawk at approximately 3.7%. Daxon continued, following her into the bay. Alia smiled grimly as she began overriding the transport's security lock. Then we'll just have to be that 3.7%. Within 20 minutes, they had cleared the station's defensive perimeter in the commandeered transport, which Alia had christened Longshot with a touch of ironic humor. Once safely beyond tracking range, she activated the neural link implant behind her ear. A rush of sensation flooded her consciousness, distant but unmistakable. The quantum signature of the Starhawk pulsed like a heartbeat across the void, faint but detectable. Got you, she whispered, adjusting the Longshot's course. Daxon, set coordinates for the Cygnus Drift. That's where he's headed. The Cygnus Drift? That's a derelict battlefield from the Centauri conflict. It's restricted space. Exactly why he's going there. No patrols, plenty of places to hide. She engaged the hyperdrive, feeling the old ship shudder in protest. And the perfect place to make contact with black market buyers. The Longshot lurched into hyperspace, carrying them toward the first stage of what would become a chase across 3 galaxies. The Cygnus Drift materialized before them as a massive graveyard of derelict warships, frozen in their final moments of battle. Hundreds of vessels, from small fighters to capital ships, hung suspended in the void, their hulls punctured and lifeless. Solar radiation glinted off broken metal and shattered viewports, creating an eerie, beautiful tableau of destruction. Sensors detect no active ships in the vicinity, Daxon reported. However, there is significant interference from radiation and debris. Alia closed her eyes, focusing on the neural link. The Starhawk's presence was stronger here, but not immediate. He's been here, but he's gone now. Recently. She guided the Longshot deeper into the drift, navigating through the silent monuments to a war most had tried to forget. The Centauri conflict had nearly torn the Alliance apart 50 years ago, leaving these dead ships as a reminder of how close civilization had come to collapse. There, Alia pointed to a clearing among the debris. Docking clamps were engaged there. You can see the energy signature residue. She brought the Longshot alongside a massive derelict cruiser and powered down the engines. We should proceed with caution, Daxon advised. This area may be restricted, but it is not uninhabited. Scavengers? Alia asked, checking her neural stunner. Among other undesirables. They boarded the derelict through a breach in its hull. Alia's helmet light cutting through decades of darkness. The ship's corridors were a testament to the violence of its final moments. Blast marks scorched the walls, and occasional remnants of the crew remained, preserved in the vacuum. I'm detecting recent movement patterns in the dust, Daxon noted, his sensors scanning the floor. Multiple individuals. One matches the weight distribution and gait pattern consistent with Rovan Kryn's cybernetic enhancements. They followed the trail to what had once been the cruiser's command center. The consoles were dark and dead, but someone had set up a temporary power source in the center of the room. A holographic projector lay discarded nearby. Alia picked it up, activating its playback function. A three-dimensional image flickered to life. Rovan Kryn, his cybernetic implants gleaming, addressing someone off-screen. The quantum neural interface makes it invaluable. Self-healing technology that adapts to damage. Imagine what your rebellion could do with that. His voice was smooth but carried metallic undertones, likely another enhancement. But such technology comes at a premium. The recording ended abruptly. Alia's jaw tightened. "He's selling my ship to rebels." The timestamp indicates this was recorded 7 hours ago. Daxon observed. Given the Starhawk's capabilities, they could be anywhere in the Milky Way by now. Alia was about to respond when the distinct sound of a weapon powering up came from behind them. Well, what have we here?" The voice was gruff, belonging to a hulking figure silhouetted in the doorway. "Looks like we've got ourselves some Alliance types snooping around our territory." 2 more figures appeared beside him, weapons trained on Alia and Daxon. "We're not Alliance," Alia said calmly, raising her hands slowly. "Just looking for someone who stole something from me." The leader stepped forward, his face coming into the light. He was a draconian, his scaled skin bearing the distinctive ridge patterns of the southern clans. "Nobody steals in the drift without paying us our due. The man I'm looking for is Rovan Kryn. He has my..." The draconian's expression shifted, interest replacing hostility. "Kryn, the cyborg. He was here. All right. Paid us handsomely to use this place for a meeting." "With whom?" "Not my business to know." The draconian holstered his weapon. "But my business is information. You want to know where he went? That'll cost you." Alia assessed her options. The long shot didn't have much in the way of valuable cargo, and her credits were limited. But she had something perhaps more valuable. "I'm a quantum engineer. I could optimize your ship's engines, give you better efficiency, higher speeds." The draconian considered this, then nodded. "Show me." Over the next few hours, Alia worked on the scavenger's ragtag fleet, applying modifications that would normally cost thousands of credits at any reputable shipyard. By the time she finished, their lead vessel's efficiency had improved by 30%. "Impressive," the draconian admitted, watching as his ship's diagnostics displayed the enhanced performance metrics. Kryn mentioned a buyer from the Callisto Syndicate, said something about heading to the Graviton Edge next. Dangerous place, massive gravity well from a collapsed neutron star. Perfect for hiding. Alia nodded her thanks. "One more thing. Did he mention anything about my ship, the Starhawk?" The draconian's expression darkened. "He said it was fighting him, that it needed to be properly broken in, whatever that means." A cold fury settled in Alia's chest. The Starhawk's neural interface was designed to bond with her consciousness. If Kryn was forcing it to comply with his commands, the ship would be experiencing something akin to pain. "Thank you for the information," she said, her voice tight. "We'll be leaving now." Back aboard the Longshot, Alia plotted a course for the Graviton Edge, a region at the outer boundary of the Milky Way where a collapsed neutron star created a gravity well so powerful that it distorted space-time itself. Ships could hide in the ripples of warped space, effectively becoming invisible to most detection methods. The Longshot's structural integrity may not withstand the gravitational forces at the edge, Daxon warned as they prepared to depart. "We don't have a choice," Alia replied, engaging the hyperdrive. "And besides, I've made some modifications of my own." The journey to the Graviton Edge took 17 hours, during which Alia caught brief moments of restless sleep. In her dreams, she felt the Starhawk calling to her, its quantum consciousness strained and confused by the foreign presence controlling it. When they arrived, The massive gravity well dominated the view screen, a swirling vortex of light and energy surrounding absolute darkness. The space around it rippled like water, stars seeming to shift and bend in impossible ways. "Gravitational shielding at maximum," Daxon announced as they approached. "Hull integrity at 87% and holding." Alia guided the long shot into the distorted space, feeling the ship shudder under the immense forces pulling at it. Her neural link hummed with increased activity. The Starhawk was close. "There," she said, pointing to a ripple in space that seemed slightly different from the others. "That's not natural distortion." She adjusted their course, fighting against the gravity well's pull. As they drew closer, the ripple resolved into the distinctive outline of the Starhawk, its hull reflecting the twisted light of bent stars. "He's using the gravity field to mask the quantum signature," Alia realized. "Clever. We are being scanned," Daxon alerted. "Defensive systems activating aboard the Starhawk." Before Alia could respond, a bolt of energy lanced out from her ship, striking the long shot's port side. Alarms blared as systems overloaded. "Hull breach in Section 3, Daxon reported. "Emergency containment activated." Alia fought with the controls, trying to stabilize their position while the gravity well pulled them inexorably closer to the Starhawk. "Open a communication channel." "Channel open." "Rovan Kryn," Alia called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "This is Chief Engineer Alia Mercer. You've stolen my ship, and I'm here to take it back." There was a moment of silence before a response came through, the metallic undertones unmistakable. "Engineer Mercer, I'm impressed you managed to track me here. Not many could have done that." Kryn's voice held genuine admiration. "Unfortunately, I've invested too much in acquiring this magnificent vessel to simply return it." "That ship is neurally bonded to me," Alia responded. "It will never fully accept your commands. A temporary inconvenience. Neural patterns can be overwritten with the right persuasion." Another energy blast struck the long shot, this time taking out their primary engine. The ship began to drift toward the gravity well's center. "You have two options, Engineer," Kryn continued. "Retreat now and live, or persist and be crushed by forces beyond your control." Alia's mind raced. Direct confrontation was suicide with the long shot damaged. But she hadn't come this far to retreat. "Daxon," she whispered, muting the communication channel. "Initiate emergency protocol Omega. Vent all non-essential atmosphere and prepare for rapid decompression." "That would be exceptionally dangerous," the robot cautioned. "So is giving up." Alia strapped herself into the pilot's seat and secured her helmet. "On my mark." She unmuted the channel. "You're right, Kryn, I can't beat you in a direct fight. But remember, that's my ship you're commanding, and it knows its true master." With that, she closed her eyes and focused all her concentration on the neural link, pushing her consciousness toward the Starhawk with every ounce of mental strength she possessed. "Now, Daxon." The robot initiated the protocol, venting the ship's atmosphere explosively. The force propelled the long shot directly toward the Starhawk, while simultaneously creating a debris field that confused the larger vessel's targeting systems. Through the neural link, Alia felt the Starhawk's recognition, a flicker of the bond they had shared. Not enough to wrest control, but enough to create momentary hesitation in its defensive systems. It was all she needed. The long shot crashed against the Starhawk's hull near an emergency airlock. The impact sent Alia slamming against her restraints, pain blossoming across her chest. "Hull breach on the Starhawk confirmed," Daxon reported. "We have created an entry point." Alia unstrapped herself, fighting against the pain that suggested at least one broken rib. "Let's move before he seals it." They crossed from the dying long shot to the Starhawk through the emergency airlock, fighting against escaping atmosphere until the ship's automatic systems sealed the breach. "He'll know we're aboard," Alia said. drawing her neural stunner. "We need to reach the bridge." The interior of the Starhawk was familiar, yet strange, like returning to one's home to find furniture rearranged. Kryn had already begun making modifications, installing unfamiliar technology at key junctions. "These are black market augmentations," Daxon observed, scanning one such modification. Designed to bypass Alliance security protocols, he's preparing the ship for illegal operations. They moved cautiously through the corridors, avoiding the security drones Kryn had deployed. The ship's internal systems fluctuated around them, lights dimming and brightening, air circulation sputtering. Through her neural link, Alia could sense the Starhawk's confusion, caught between loyalty to its creator and the commands of its new controller. "The bridge is 2 levels up," she whispered, checking a junction before proceeding. "If I can reach the primary neural interface, I can re-establish full connection." They had almost reached the access ladder when a security drone spotted them, its alarm piercing the relative quiet. Seconds later, a barrage of stun bolts forced them to take cover behind a bulkhead. "Persistent, aren't you?" Kryn's voice came through the ship's communication system. "I'm actually starting to admire your determination. Engineer Mercer, return my ship, and you can walk away." Alia called back. "The Alliance doesn't have to know about this." Kryn's laugh echoed through the corridor. "A generous offer, but I'm afraid this vessel is worth far more than my freedom. Do you have any idea what the Callisto Syndicate is willing to pay for self-regenerative quantum technology? Enough to buy my own planet." More security drones converged on their position. Daxon took a stun bolt to his chassis, his systems flickering. "Go," the robot urged, his voice distorting. "I will delay them." Alia hesitated, but Daxon was already moving, drawing the drone's fire as he charged toward them. She used the distraction to sprint for the access ladder, climbing rapidly despite the pain in her side. She emerged onto the upper level, only to find herself face to face with Rovan Kryn himself. He was taller than she'd expected, his cybernetic enhancements more extensive. The right side of his face was entirely mechanical, with a glowing red optical implant where his eye should have been. "End of the line. Engineer," he said, raising a weapon that was integrated into his cybernetic arm. Alia dodged as he fired, the energy blast scorching the wall behind her. She returned fire with her neural stunner, but Kryn's cybernetic reflexes allowed him to evade easily. "Your neural stunner won't affect my systems," he explained, advancing methodically. "Military-grade shielding." Alia backed away, mind racing. "Is that what the Centauri gave you before you deserted? Before you betrayed them too?" The barb found its mark. Kryn's organic eye narrowed. "I was their experiment, their weapon, until I decided to become my own master. And now you're just another thief." Alia spat, still retreating. "Stealing others' innovations because you can't create your own." Kryn fired again, this shot coming closer. "Creation is overrated. Acquisition is much more efficient." They had reached the bridge, a spacious command center dominated by the neural interface chair at its center. This was where Alia had spent countless hours communing with the ship, refining its systems, teaching it to heal itself. Kryn seemed to read her thoughts. "Impressive work. By the way, the neural interface is unlike anything I've encountered. It's almost as if the ship is alive." "It is alive," Alia replied, "and it knows you're an imposter." She lunged suddenly, not toward Kryn but toward the neural interface chair. If she could establish direct contact, even for a moment. Kryn was faster, intercepting her and throwing her against a console. Pain exploded across her already injured ribs. "I've studied your connection to this ship," he said, standing between her and the chair. "The quantum entanglement between your consciousness and its systems is elegant. But like all technology, it can be hacked, overwritten, reprogrammed." Alia struggled to her feet, tasting blood. The Starhawk isn't just technology. Our connection goes beyond quantum entanglement. Sentimentality? Kryn dismissed. Another human weakness. He raised his weapon for what would be a killing shot, but at that moment, the ship lurched violently, throwing both of them off balance. The lights flickered, and the gravity briefly inverted before stabilizing. Through her neural link, Alia felt a surge of recognition from the Starhawk. It had sensed her presence, her distress. It was fighting back against Kryn's control. She used the distraction to close the distance between them, driving her shoulder into his midsection. They grappled briefly before his superior strength allowed him to throw her aside once more. "Enough of this," Kryn growled, his cybernetic arm reconfiguring into a more dangerous-looking weapon. "You've become a liability." Before he could fire, the ship lurched again, more violently this time. Warning klaxons sounded as the view screen showed their position relative to the neutron star's gravity well. They were being pulled closer. "What have you done?" Kryn demanded, momentarily distracted by the ship's systems. Alia saw her opportunity. "I haven't done anything, but the Starhawk has made its choice." She launched herself toward the neural interface chair, this time making it before Kryn could intercept her. The moment she connected, the familiar rush of complete neural integration washed over her. For a brief, perfect moment, she was the ship and the ship was her. "Security override, Mercer Prime," she commanded. "Lock down all systems, disengage unauthorized control." "Override accepted," came the ship's synthesized voice, sounding almost relieved. "Welcome back, Creator Mercer." Kryn fired at her, but a force field shimmered into existence around the chair, deflecting the blast. "Defensive systems engaged," the ship announced. "Threat detected." Kryn's expression shifted from anger to calculation. "Impressive, but we're still being pulled into the gravity well. If you don't release control to me, we'll both be crushed." Alia's hands danced over the console, re-establishing proper control. The Starhawk was designed to withstand extreme conditions, even a neutron star's gravity. She engaged the quantum drive, feeling the ship respond eagerly to her commands. The engines hummed to life, fighting against the massive gravitational pull. Kryn lunged forward, attempting to breach the force field through sheer force. To Alia's surprise, his cybernetic arm began to penetrate the energy barrier, its components glowing with the effort. "Centauri phase shift technology," he grunted. "Your defenses can't stop it completely." Alia redirected power, strengthening the field. But it was a temporary solution. She needed to deal with Kryn permanently. "Ship, analyze intruder cybernetic systems," she commanded. "Analysis complete," the Starhawk responded seconds later. "Centauri military augmentations. Primary power source located in central chest cavity. Vulnerability detected in neural control pathways." Kryn's arm had now breached the force field entirely, reaching for her throat. "Your ship can't save you now. Engineer." Alia smiled grimly. "It already has. Ship, execute targeted electromagnetic pulse. Focus on neural control pathways of cybernetic intruder." Executing. A wave of focused electromagnetic energy erupted from the chair, engulfing Kryn. His cybernetic systems sparked and shuddered, the glowing red eye flickering before going dark. He collapsed to the deck, his enhanced limbs twitching uncontrollably. "Cybernetic systems temporarily disabled," the ship reported. 87 seconds until reboot." Alia rose from the chair, grabbing restraints from a nearby emergency kit. She secured Kryn's limbs while his systems were compromised. "You've lost. Kryn," she told him as his organic eye focused on her with hatred. "My ship, my rules." With Kryn secured, Alia returned to the neural interface chair and guided the Starhawk away from the neutron star's gravity well. Once they were at a safe distance, she set a course for the nearest Alliance outpost. "Daxin," she called through the ship's communication system. "Status report." There was a moment of silence before the robot's voice responded, slightly distorted but functional. "Operational at 63% capacity. Minor damage to locomotive systems. Pleased to hear you have regained control. Meet me on the bridge. We have a prisoner to deliver." As they traveled, Alia discovered the extent of Kryn's modifications to her ship. He had been preparing it for biological weapons transport, specialized containment fields, atmospheric isolation systems, and unregistered communication arrays. The Callisto Syndicate had been planning to use the Starhawk's self-healing capabilities to safely transport engineered pathogens, a violation of every treaty in the 3 galaxies. When they arrived at Alliance Outpost Gamma 9, Alia transmitted the evidence of Kryn's intentions along with his identity. An Alliance security team boarded the Starhawk to take the space pirate into custody. "The Alliance owes you a debt of gratitude. Engineer Mercer," said the security team's commander. "Rovan Kryn has been on our most wanted list for years." "I wasn't doing it for the Alliance," Alia responded. "I was doing it for my ship." After providing her statement and completing the necessary documentation, Alia was surprised to receive a communication from Commodore Voss. "Engineer Mercer," his holographic image said, looking both impressed and annoyed. "Against all odds and direct orders, you've managed to recover your vessel and capture one of our most sought-after criminals. Just doing what needed to be done. Commodore, the Alliance is prepared to offer you a position as a senior advisor on our new quantum technology division. Your experience would be invaluable." Alia considered the offer for a moment, then shook her head. "I appreciate the offer, Commodore, but the Starhawk and I still have exploring to do. There are 3 galaxies out there, and we've barely scratched the surface." Voss looked disappointed but not surprised. "The offer remains open, should you change your mind." After the communication ended, Alia stood on the bridge of her reclaimed ship, running her hand along the console affectionately. "Set a course for the Triangulum Galaxy," she told the ship. "We've got an expedition to join." "Course plotted," the Starhawk responded. "Quantum drive ready at your command." Alia settled into the neural interface chair, feeling the familiar connection establish itself, stronger now, tempered by their separation and reunion. "You know," she said to Daxin as the stars outside began to blur with their acceleration, "I think we've learned something valuable from this experience." "What would that be?" the robot inquired. Alia smiled, feeling the Starhawk's consciousness mesh with her own as they prepared to jump to quantum speed. "Never steal a ship from an Earth woman. She'll chase you across 3 galaxies to get it back." The quantum drive engaged, and the Starhawk disappeared into the depths of space, leaving nothing but a fading energy signature and a new legend in its wake. In the vast emptiness between galaxies, where stars were mere pinpricks against the absolute darkness, the Starhawk emerged from quantum space like a ghost materializing from nothing. Its sleek hull gleamed with the faint light of distant galaxies, the quantum drive cooling after the immense jump. Alia stood at the view screen, gazing at the spiral arms of the Andromeda Galaxy spread before them. After leaving Alliance space, they had made several jumps, following rumors of unusual quantum disturbances that matched signatures she had detected during the Starhawk's initial testing phase. "Daxin, what's our status?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the magnificent vista. "All systems functioning at optimal capacity," the robot reported from his station. "The quantum core has fully stabilized following our encounter with Kryn. I believe the ship is pleased to have you back in command." Alia smiled at the robot's choice of words. Daxin had been with her long enough to understand that the Starhawk was more than metal and energy. It had developed a form of consciousness through its quantum neural network. "Ship, begin long-range scan of Sector 732 in Andromeda," she commanded. "Focus on quantum resonance patterns matching our previous findings." "Scanning," the Starhawk responded, its voice now carrying subtle inflections that hadn't been present before the hijacking. Estimated completion time, 17 minutes. While the scan ran, Alia reviewed the data they had collected so far. The pattern was becoming clearer, unusual quantum signatures appearing at the edges of settled space, sometimes accompanied by unexplained ship disappearances. The Alliance had dismissed her findings as sensor anomalies, but Alia knew better. Something was happening at the quantum level of space itself, something potentially revolutionary. Her contemplation was interrupted by a proximity alert. Unidentified vessel approaching from bearing 270, Daxon announced. Andromeda registry, but no transponder signal. Tactical display, Alia ordered, and the view screen shifted to show a small, sleek ship approaching at high speed. Its design was unfamiliar, neither Alliance nor any known independent faction. Ship, defensive posture, she commanded, remembering all too well her recent experience with Kryn. Hail them. No response to hail, the Starhawk reported. Vessel is scanning us with quantum-based sensors. Alia frowned. Quantum scanning technology was rare, mostly restricted to high-level research vessels and Alliance military ships. An unmarked vessel with such capabilities was suspicious at best. They're matching our course, Daxon observed. Behavior suggests intercept trajectory. Before Alia could respond, the communication system activated of its own accord, displaying a face she recognized immediately. Engineer Mercer, said Lyra Vaughn, her violet eyes as intense as Alia remembered. I thought that might be you. Lyra, Alia replied, surprise giving way to wariness. It's been, what, 3 years? 3 years, 2 months, and 11 days. Lyra corrected with a slight smile. But who's counting? Lyra Vaughn had once been Alia's closest friend and colleague at the Quantum Research Institute on Earth. Their partnership had dissolved after a disagreement over the ethical applications of quantum technology, Lyra believing that information should be free for all, Alia insisting on responsible governance. Lyra had disappeared shortly after, taking sensitive research with her. I see you've completed the Starhawk, Lyra continued, her eyes taking in what she could see of the bridge. Magnificent achievement, the first self-healing quantum ship. You always did think big. What do you want, Lyra? Alia asked, not bothering with pleasantries. Last I heard, you were selling information to the highest bidder in the Andromeda Underground. Information broker, Lyra corrected. And quite a successful one, which is why I'm here. I have something you might be interested in, regarding your friend Rovan Kryn. Alia's expression hardened. Kryn is in Alliance custody. Is he? Lyra raised an eyebrow. Check the latest security bulletins. With a gesture, Alia brought up the Alliance network. Sure enough, there was an alert. Rovan Kryn had escaped during transport, killing 2 security officers in the process. That's impossible, Alia muttered. I disabled his cybernetic systems myself. Evidently not permanently enough, Lyra replied. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is what he was looking for on your ship. Despite her distrust, Alia's curiosity was piqued. And you know this how? I'm an information broker, remember? I know what people are willing to pay for, and why. Lyra leaned forward in the communication display. Permission to come aboard? This isn't something I want to discuss over open channels. Alia hesitated, then nodded. Permission granted, but your ship stays at a distance, and you come alone. Any weapons will be detected and neutralized. I wouldn't expect anything less. Lyra's image disappeared from the screen. 20 minutes later, Lyra Vaughn stood on the bridge of the Starhawk, her slim figure clothed in the practical attire of a spacer, though with distinctly finer materials than most. Her violet eyes, a genetic modification popular in the inner worlds, took in every detail of the ship with obvious appreciation. You've outdone yourself. Alia, she said, running a hand along a console. The neural integration is seamless. I can almost feel the ship's consciousness. You didn't come here to admire my engineering, Alia replied, keeping a careful distance. What do you know about Kryn? Lyra smiled, settling into a chair without invitation. Always direct. I've missed that about you. Her expression grew more serious. Kryn wasn't just stealing your ship for profit. He was looking for something specific, something he believed was hidden in the Starhawk's quantum memory core. There's nothing hidden in the core, Alia said, though a flicker of uncertainty crossed her mind. The quantum memory system she had developed was vast, with emergent properties she was still documenting. Are you certain? Lyra asked. What about Project Orpheus? The name sent a chill through Alia. Project Orpheus had been a theoretical exploration of quantum communication across dimensional boundaries, research so speculative and potentially dangerous that she had abandoned it 3 years ago. The only complete records should have been destroyed. How do you know about that? Alia demanded. Like I said, information is my business. Lyra crossed her legs casually. The Callisto Syndicate believes you encoded the Orpheus findings into the Starhawk's quantum memory. That's what Kryn was really after. Not just the ship, but the data. And now that he's escaped, he'll be coming for it again. Alia exchanged a glance with Daxin, whose optical sensors had narrowed in suspicion. Even if that were true, Alia said carefully, why would you warn me? Because the Orpheus data in the wrong hands could destabilize more than just political power. It could destabilize reality itself. Lyra's casual demeanor had vanished, replaced by an intensity Alia remembered well from their research days. And because despite our differences, I don't want to see you dead. Alia considered her former friend's words. Lyra had always been difficult to read, brilliant, mercurial, and guided by her own moral compass that didn't always align with conventional ethics. But she had never known Lyra to lie outright. I need more than vague warnings, Alia said finally. If Kryn is coming for my ship again, I need to know when and how. Lyra nodded, seeming to have expected this response. She removed a data crystal from her pocket and held it up. This contains the latest intelligence on Kryn's movements, including his known associates in the Triangulum Galaxy. He's gathering a team, specialists in quantum technology and neural interfaces. And your price for this information? Alia asked, knowing Lyra never gave anything freely. Access to your quantum resonance findings. Lyra replied without hesitation. I know what you're tracking out here. Alia, the dimensional anomalies. I want to help. Help or exploit. Both, if I'm being honest. Lyra smiled again, but this time it reached her eyes. Some things haven't changed. I still believe knowledge should be free, but I also believe in preventing catastrophes. Alia took a moment to think, then extended her hand for the data crystal. I'll review your information. If it proves valuable, we can discuss the anomalies. Lyra placed the crystal in her palm. Fair enough, but don't take too long. According to my sources, Kryn is already in the Triangulum Galaxy, and he's not working alone anymore. After Lyra departed, Alia spent hours analyzing the data crystal's contents. The information was comprehensive and disturbing. Kryn had indeed assembled a team, including a neural interface specialist who had been expelled from the Academy for unethical experimentation. They had acquired a vessel with capabilities similar to the Starhawk, though lacking its self-healing properties. Most concerning was the confirmation that Kryn was after the Orpheus data, research that Alia had indeed encoded into the Starhawk's quantum memory as a backup, though in a highly encrypted form that required her direct neural connection to access. If this information is accurate, we need to change course, she told Daxin as they plotted their next move. The expedition to Triangulum will have to wait. May I point out that following the quantum anomalies might still be our best strategy, the robot suggested. If Kryn believes the Orpheus data is valuable enough to pursue across 3 galaxies, perhaps the anomalies are connected. Alia paused, considering. You might be right. Ship. Reanalyze scan results from Sector 732. Cross-reference with Orpheus theoretical parameters. Analyzing. The Starhawk responded. After several moments, it continued. Match found. Quantum resonance patterns show 87% correlation with Orpheus dimensional boundary predictions. A chill ran down Alia's spine. The Orpheus project had been theoretical, mathematical models of how quantum entanglement might bridge dimensional boundaries. If the anomalies match those predictions, set course for the nearest anomaly location, she ordered. Maximum quantum speed. The Starhawk responded immediately, the engines humming as they prepared for the jump. Through the neural link, Alia sensed the ship's eagerness, almost as if it had been waiting for this command. They made the jump to Sector 732, emerging in a seemingly empty region of space near the outer spiral arm of the Andromeda Galaxy. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about their surroundings. Distant stars, the faint glow of nebula, the usual cosmic backdrop. But the Starhawk's sensors told a different story. Quantum fluctuations permeated the area, rippling through subspace in patterns that defied standard physics. Remarkable, Alia whispered, studying the readings. It's exactly as the Orpheus equations predicted, a thinning of the dimensional barrier. I am detecting an artificial structure, Daxin announced suddenly. Bearing 180 Mark III, minimal energy signature, but definitely not natural. Alia adjusted the view screen, enhancing the image. A small space station hung against the backdrop of stars, its design unlike anything in Alliance records. It appeared to be ancient, its hull made of materials that absorbed rather than reflected light. Life signs? She asked. None detected, Daxin replied. The station appears dormant. However, there is a faint quantum signature emanating from its core that matches our anomaly readings. Take us closer, Alia ordered, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. Prepare for potential boarding. As they approached the station, its details became clearer. It was roughly circular, with spires extending outward like the petals of a strange flower. The material of its construction seemed to shift subtly as they watched, as though not entirely stable in this dimension. Ship, continuous scan for any change in status, Alia commanded, preparing an environmental suit for the boarding expedition. Daxin, you're with me. I must advise against this course of action. The robot responded. Unknown quantum phenomena of this nature present incalculable risks. Noted, Alia said, checking her equipment. But this could be the discovery of the century. I'm not passing it up. They boarded the station through what appeared to be an ancient airlock, its mechanism surprisingly responsive despite apparent age. Inside, the corridors were curved and organic in design, illuminated by a soft blue light that seemed to emanate from the material of the walls themselves. The architecture is unlike any known species in our database, Daxin observed, scanning their surroundings. And the materials, they appear to be in a state of quantum flux. Alia ran her hand along a wall, feeling a subtle vibration through her glove. It's almost like it's breathing. They made their way deeper into the station, following the strengthening quantum signature. The corridors occasionally shifted around them, not drastically but enough to be disorienting, spaces expanding or contracting by subtle degrees. The quantum fluctuations are affecting local space-time, Alia noted, checking her instruments. Fascinating. They eventually reached what appeared to be the central chamber, a vast, domed space with a device at its center that defied easy description. It was simultaneously crystalline and fluid, its components shifting between states in a mesmerizing dance. This is the source of the quantum signature, Daxin confirmed, a technology far beyond our current understanding. Alia approached the device carefully, her scanner recording everything. It's some kind of quantum manipulator. The mathematics behind it. It's exactly what we theorized in Project Orpheus, but implemented in ways we never imagined. As she studied the device, a realization dawned on her. This isn't just similar to our research. This is what our research was based on. Somehow, echoes of this technology must have leaked through the dimensional barrier, influencing our thinking. A troubling implication, Daxin noted. It suggests our scientific breakthroughs may not have been entirely our own. Before Alia could respond, her communicator activated. "Engineer Mercer," came the Starhawk's voice. "A vessel has entered the sector and is approaching rapidly. Configuration matches the data provided by Lyra Vaughn regarding Rovan Crin's new ship." Alia's heart raced. How did he find us so quickly? Perhaps the same way we found this place, Daxin suggested, by following the quantum signature. Or perhaps Lyra wasn't being entirely truthful about her motives, Alia added grimly. "Ship, battle stations, we're returning immediately." They hurried back through the shifting corridors, the station seeming to respond to their urgency by straightening their path. As they reached the airlock, Alia paused, looking back at the mysterious structure. "We'll have to come back," she promised silently. "There's too much to learn here." Once aboard the Starhawk, Alia rushed to the bridge, connecting to the neural interface chair. The ship's systems came alive around her, responding to her thoughts with practiced precision. "Crin's vessel is within visual range," the ship reported. "They are powering weapon systems." The view screen showed a sleek, predatory vessel approaching, clearly designed for combat rather than exploration. Its hull bore the distinctive markings of black market modifications. "Open a channel," Alia ordered. Rovan Crin's face appeared on the screen, his cybernetic enhancements gleaming with new additions. The red optical implant had been upgraded, now pulsing with an unsettling intensity. "Engineer Mercer," he greeted, his metallic voice carrying a note of smug satisfaction. "Twice now, we find ourselves in the same place at the same time. One might call it destiny." "I call it stalking," Alia replied coldly. "How did you find us, Crin?" "Let's just say your friend Lyra Vaughn's loyalty is flexible." Crin smiled, the expression eerie on his half-mechanical face. "She provided the data crystal to you, and the tracking device to me. Quite enterprising of her to profit from both sides." Alia cursed silently. She should have been more cautious. "What do you want?" she demanded, though she already knew the answer. "The same thing I wanted before. The Orpheus data." Crin's organic eye narrowed. "But now I know where it is, encoded in your ship's quantum memory, accessible only through your neural link, which means I need both the ship and you." "You failed to take my ship once," Alia reminded him. "What makes you think you'll succeed now?" Crin's smile widened. "Because this time, I have leverage." The view widened to show Lyra Vaughn standing beside him, her expression unreadable. "I'm sorry, Alia," Lyra said, though she didn't sound particularly remorseful. "Business is business. She came to me with an offer," Crin explained. "Your location in exchange for a share of whatever the Orpheus data brings on the market." I agreed, naturally, but I've made some modifications to our arrangement. He raised his cybernetic arm, now holding a neural disruptor against Lyra's temple. "You have 1 hour to surrender your ship and yourself, or your former friend experiences neural collapse. Not death, that would be merciful. Just the complete disintegration of her consciousness, one synapse at a time." The communication cut off, leaving Alia staring at the enemy vessel hovering nearby. "He's bluffing," Daxin suggested. "Lyra Vaughn betrayed you. He has no reason to believe you would surrender to save her." Alia frowned, thinking rapidly. "No, but he knows I won't abandon her to that fate, either." Neural disruption is... She shuddered. No one deserves that. What are your orders? The Starhawk asked through their neural connection. Alia closed her eyes, considering their options. Direct confrontation was risky. Kryn's ship was armed for combat, while the Starhawk was primarily a research vessel. Running was possible, but would mean abandoning Lyra. Surrendering was unthinkable. The Orpheus data in Kryn's hands could have catastrophic consequences. We need a third option, she murmured, then opened her eyes with sudden clarity. Ship, how close are we to the quantum anomaly at the station's core? The anomaly extends approximately 3,000 kilometers from the station, the Starhawk reported. We are currently within its outer boundary. And our quantum drive can operate within the anomaly? Theoretically, yes, though with unpredictable effects due to the dimensional instability. A plan began to form in Alia's mind, desperate and dangerous, but with a chance of success. Daxin, prepare the emergency shuttle, she ordered, and access the weapons locker. We're going to need the prototype quantum disruptors. Those are highly experimental, the robot cautioned, and potentially unstable. Exactly, Alia replied, already moving to help with the preparations. Ship, I need you to calculate a very specific quantum jump, one that will take us within 50 meters of Kryn's vessel, but only for approximately 3 seconds before jumping again to the far side of the station. Such precision is at the edge of my capabilities, the ship warned, and the presence of the anomaly introduces significant variables. I know, Alia acknowledged, but it's our best chance. Over the next 40 minutes, they prepared their desperate gambit. The quantum disruptors, devices Alia had been developing as a defensive measure, were loaded onto the emergency shuttle. The Starhawk systems were configured for the precise jumps they would need. With 15 minutes remaining in Kryn's ultimatum, Alia opened a channel to his ship. Kryn, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I'm prepared to discuss terms. The space pirate's face appeared on screen, looking triumphant. A wise decision. Engineer. My terms are simple. You and your ship, in exchange for Lyra Von's continued neural integrity. I want proof she's unharmed, Alia demanded. Kryn gestured, and Lyra was brought into view. She appeared physically uninjured, though her expression was a complex mixture of fear, regret, and calculation. Alia, Lyra said, don't do this. The Orpheus data isn't worth it. Quiet, Kryn snapped, before turning back to Alia. You have 10 minutes to power down your shields and prepare for boarding. Any sign of resistance, and Miss Von's brain becomes cosmic static. The communication ended, and Alia turned to Daxin. Ready? The robot nodded, his chassis now equipped with additional armaments. I calculate our chances of success at approximately 12%. Better than our previous adventure, Alia replied with grim humor. Let's move. They boarded the emergency shuttle, which had been modified to emit the same energy signature as the Starhawk, potentially confusing Kryn's sensors. Ship, Alia communicated through the neural link. On my mark, execute the quantum jump sequence. 3 seconds after we launch the shuttle. Understood. Create a Mercer. All systems prepared. Alia took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the shuttle launch control. Mark. The shuttle shot out from the Starhawk's bay, accelerating toward Kryn's vessel. 3 seconds later, exactly as planned, the Starhawk executed its first quantum jump, appearing briefly beside Kryn's ship before vanishing again. The effect was precisely what Alia had hoped for. Kryn's sensors, designed to track quantum signatures, would detect the Starhawk's momentary presence and then its disappearance, potentially masking the approach of the shuttle, which now emitted a similar signature. As they approached Kryn's vessel, Alia activated the quantum disruptors. Unlike conventional weapons, these didn't damage physical structures, but instead temporarily disrupted quantum fields, including those used in shielding and sensor systems. His shields are fluctuating, Daxin reported as they neared the larger ship. Sensor confusion confirmed. They believe the Starhawk is attempting evasive maneuvers through quantum jumping. They reached Kryn's ship, attaching the shuttle to an emergency airlock similar to how Alia had boarded her own vessel earlier. The quantum disruptors continued their work, creating a window of opportunity as Kryn's crew tried to track the phantom jumps of the Starhawk. Boarding successful, Daxin announced as they breached the airlock. Internal sensors appear compromised. We have approximately 7 minutes before systems recalibrate. They moved quickly through the unfamiliar ship, Daxin's sensors guiding them toward the life signs that would indicate Lyra's location. The vessel's interior was utilitarian and heavily modified, with exposed conduits and hastily installed systems speaking to its cobbled-together nature. They encountered 2 crew members, whom Alia quickly neutralized with her neural stunner. The third, a burly engineer with multiple cybernetic enhancements, required Daxin's intervention with a more forceful application of mechanical strength. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the brig, a converted cargo hold with hastily installed containment fields. Lyra Vaughn sat inside one of the cells, her expression changing to shock when she saw Alia. "What are you doing here?" she demanded as Alia deactivated the containment field. "This is suicide." "You're welcome," Alia replied dryly, grabbing Lyra's arm. "We need to move. Now." "You don't understand," Lyra protested, though she allowed herself to be pulled along. "Kryn knows about the station. He knows what it means." "We'll discuss your betrayal later." Alia cut her off. "Right now, we focus on staying alive." They had nearly reached the airlock when alarms blared throughout the ship. "Intruder alert," came an automated announcement. "Security protocols engaged." "Our 7 minutes appear to have expired early," Daxin observed, readying his weapons. "I suggest haste." They rounded a corner to find themselves face to face with Rovan Kryn himself, flanked by 2 heavily armed guards. His cybernetic eye glowed fiercely, and his arm had transformed into what appeared to be an integrated energy cannon. "Engineer Mercer," he said, sounding almost impressed. "Your resourcefulness continues to astound me, but this ends now." "I couldn't agree more," Alia replied, then activated her neural link to the Starhawk. Now, the ship, which had been positioned on the far side of the ancient station, executed another quantum jump, this time directly adjacent to Kryn's vessel. The proximity triggered the final phase of Alia's plan. "Through the neural link," she commanded, "Ship, initiate quantum resonance pulse, target, anomaly at station core." The Starhawk directed a precisely calibrated energy beam at the ancient station, specifically at the mysterious device at its core. The beam didn't damage the device. Instead, it stimulated it, amplifying the quantum fluctuations it was already producing. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Space itself seemed to ripple around them, light bending in impossible ways. Kryn's ship shuddered violently, throwing everyone off balance. "What have you done?" Kryn demanded, struggling to maintain his footing. "Created a distraction," Alia answered, taking advantage of the chaos to fire her neural stunner at the 2 guards. Kryn, however, remained standing, his cybernetic legs compensating for the spatial distortions. "You're playing with forces you don't understand," he growled, advancing toward them. "Neither do you," Alia retorted. "That's what makes us even." She fired again, but Kryn deflected the neural pulse with his cybernetic arm. He lunged forward, grabbing Alia by the throat with inhuman speed. "I don't need your willing cooperation to access the neural link," he snarled, his face inches from hers. "I just need your brain." Daxin moved to intervene, but one of the recovering guards fired, the blast catching the robot in his midsection and sending him crashing against a bulkhead. Just as Alia's vision began to darken from lack of oxygen, there was a flash of movement and a sickening crunch. Kryn's grip loosened, and he staggered sideways, revealing Lyra Vaughn standing behind him, holding a piece of broken equipment she had used to strike the back of his head. "Nobody threatens to scramble my neurons," she said fiercely. "Especially not some cyborg with delusions of grandeur." Alia gasped for air, then nodded her thanks to Lyra. "We need to get to the shuttle. Now." The quantum fluctuations were intensifying, the very fabric of reality becoming increasingly unstable around them. They half ran, half stumbled to the airlock, Daxin limping behind them with significant damage to his locomotion systems. They reached the shuttle just as another violent shudder ran through Kryn's ship. Through the viewport, Alia could see the ancient station had begun to glow with an unearthly light, the quantum anomaly expanding rapidly. "What exactly did you do?" Lyra asked as they detached from Kryn's vessel and accelerated toward the waiting Starhawk. "I amplified the station's dimensional thinning effect," Alia explained, piloting the shuttle with desperate speed. "Temporarily, I think." "You think?" Lyra's violet eyes widened. "You mean you don't know?" "It was a calculated risk," Alia admitted as they approached the Starhawk's shuttle bay. "Based on the Orpheus equations and what I observed at the station's core." Once aboard the Starhawk, Alia rushed to the neural interface chair, connecting with the ship's systems. "Status report." "Quantum anomaly expanding at exponential rate," the ship responded. "Dimensional barrier integrity compromised within a radius of 12,000 kilometers and growing." Through the view screen, they watched as space itself seemed to fold and unfold around the ancient station. Kryn's ship was caught in the effect, its hull warping in ways that defied normal physics. "We need to get out of here," Lyra urged. "Maximum quantum jump, now." Alia hesitated, torn between scientific curiosity and survival instinct. "Ship, what's happening to Kryn's vessel?" "Analysis indicates it is experiencing temporal spatial distortion consistent with dimensional transition," the Starhawk reported. "It appears to be partially phasing into another dimensional plane." As they watched, Kryn's ship seemed to flicker between states of existence, parts of it becoming transparent before solidifying again, only to repeat the process with different sections. "Can we help them?" Alia asked, despite everything Kryn had done. "Negative," the ship responded. "Attempting to approach would place us within the critical threshold of the anomaly. We are currently at the maximum safe distance." The decision was made for them when Kryn's ship suddenly lurched toward them, its engines flaring with desperate energy. Whether it was a last attempt by Kryn to capture the Starhawk or simply a malfunction caused by the dimensional distortions, the effect was the same. They needed to leave. Now. "Ship, quantum jump," Alia commanded. "Get us out of here." The Starhawk's quantum drive engaged, the familiar sensation of reality shifting around them as they made the jump. When they emerged, they were light years away, in a quiet sector of space far from the ancient station and its now unleashed anomaly. Alia collapsed back in the neural interface chair, exhaustion washing over her. The last few days had pushed her to limits she hadn't known she possessed. "What happens now?" Lyra asked quietly from where she stood at the edge of the bridge. Alia regarded her former friend with a mixture of emotions. "That depends on you. You betrayed me to Kryn. I also helped save you from him," Lyra pointed out. "And for what it's worth, I never intended for him to capture you. I just wanted access to the Orpheus data. The data that you helped lead him to," Alia said bitterly. Lyra had the grace to look ashamed. "I didn't know the full implications then, but after seeing that station, understanding what it represents," she shook her head. "The Orpheus project wasn't just theoretical, was it? Somehow, you knew about the dimensional barriers." "I suspected," Alia corrected. "Based on quantum fluctuations I'd been tracking for years, the mathematics pointed to something beyond our dimensional understanding." She sighed. "But I never imagined we'd find actual technology implementing those principles. Technology that predates human civilization by millennia. At least, who built it?" Lyra wondered. "And why?" Questions for another day, Alia replied, checking the ship's status. Right now, we need to inform the Alliance about what happened. The dimensional rift we created could have far-reaching consequences. They'll quarantine the entire sector, Lyra predicted, and probably confiscate your research. Let them try, Alia said with a small smile, patting the console of her ship. The Starhawk and I have our ways of keeping secrets. The days that followed were a whirlwind of debriefings, scientific analysis, and diplomatic navigation. The Alliance, predictably, attempted to classify everything related to the ancient station and the dimensional anomaly. Commodore Voss personally led the investigation, his initial skepticism giving way to grudging respect for Alia's discoveries. The quarantine zone has been established, he informed her during their final meeting. 20 light-years in all directions from the anomaly. No ships permitted entry without specific Alliance authorization. And Kryn? Alia asked. Any sign of his ship? Voss shook his head. Nothing. According to our readings, the vessel no longer exists in our dimension. Whether that means destruction or something else, we can't say. He'll be back, Alia said with certainty. Men like Kryn always find a way. Perhaps, Voss acknowledged. But that's a problem for another day. He hesitated, then added, The Alliance Science Council has renewed their offer. Director of Quantum Research, your own laboratory, unlimited funding. Alia smiled but shook her head. My answer hasn't changed. Commodore, there's too much out there to discover. 3 galaxies worth of mysteries, and now we know some of them might extend beyond our dimension. I expected as much. Voss sighed. Just try not to trigger any more dimensional rifts without consulting us first, would you? No promises, Alia replied with a grin. After the Alliance vessels departed, Alia found Lyra in the Starhawk's observation lounge, staring out at the stars. Despite everything, the Alliance had decided not to press charges against her, largely due to Alia's testimony about her role in their escape from Kryn. So, Alia said, joining her at the viewport. Where will you go now? Lyra shrugged. Back to Andromeda, I suppose. My information network won't run itself. She turned to face Alia. Unless you could use an information specialist on your journey, Lyra suggested, a hint of her old confidence returning. Someone who knows the underground networks across 3 galaxies. Someone who could help track down more clues about that ancient technology. Alia considered this. Trusting Lyra again wouldn't be easy. But her skills were undeniable, and perhaps keeping a former enemy close wasn't the worst strategy. The Starhawk has plenty of room, she said finally. But understand this. One more betrayal, and I'll leave you on the nearest uninhabited planet with nothing but a day's oxygen supply. Lyra laughed. Fair enough. I wouldn't expect anything less. She extended her hand. Partners again. Colleagues, Alia corrected, but took the offered hand. For now. Later. Alone on the bridge with Daxin, now repaired and upgraded following his damage during the escape, Alia plotted their next course. The Triangulum Galaxy, she decided. That's where we'll find the next piece of the puzzle. May I ask what puzzle we are attempting to solve? Daxin inquired. Alia smiled, her hand resting on the neural interface that connected her to the ship. The biggest one of all, old friend. Who built that station, what they were trying to accomplish, and whether there are more of them out there. She engaged the quantum drive, feeling the Starhawk's consciousness mesh with her own as they prepared to jump. And perhaps most importantly, she added as the stars began to blur around them, whether Rovan Kryn found his way back from wherever that dimensional rift sent him. The quantum drive reached full power, and the Starhawk disappeared into the void, leaving nothing behind but a fading energy signature and the promise of adventures yet to come across 3 galaxies and perhaps beyond. In her captain's log. Alia recorded a final entry before setting course for the unknown. Space is vast beyond comprehension, filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure, but one lesson remains constant throughout the cosmos. Never steal a ship from an Earth woman. She'll chase you across 3 galaxies to get it back. And when she finds you, mercy will be in short supply.